Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling wounded, even though no one raised their voice? No insults, no fists, just words, shaped like blades, cutting quietly beneath the surface. That's the kind of battle most people lose every single day. Not on a street corner or in a boardroom, but in ordinary conversations that turn poisonous without warning. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If another can make you angry, they have conquered your soul." And that's exactly what happens when someone controls your emotions with their words. At work, at home, or online, this kind of silent war plays out everywhere. But the wise, the Stoics, learned long ago that every conversation is a test of the mind. Not between right and wrong, but between control and chaos. Today, here at the Stoic Flame, we'll uncover 6 ways the aggressive use words as weapons, and how a true Stoic transforms every verbal attack into calm, controlled silence. It begins with the oldest trap in human dialogue, the "so you're saying" trick. The attacker twists your words into something extreme, something ugly, until you're forced to defend a version of yourself that doesn't exist. You might say, "I think people in a relationship should take responsibility for their own emotions." And they snap back, "So you're saying you don't care about anyone else's feelings?" That's how it begins. They hand you a distorted version of your truth, and if you react, you lose. You start explaining, defending, lowering your authority. I've seen this happen countless times, even in public interviews. Once, when Jordan Peterson was pressed with, "So, you're saying women want to dominate men?" He didn't flinch. He stayed calm, clarified, and replied, "No. What I am saying is that there is a natural dynamic within social structures that both men and women participate in." That's the first Stoic counterattack. Clarify, don't defend. The moment someone twists your words, stop, breathe, then say, "No, what I'm actually saying is," because Epictetus reminded us, it's not words that hurt us, but the meaning we attach to them. Every time you clarify, you take back the right to define yourself. Every time you react, you hand it away. I once tried this in a meeting when someone said, "So you're saying my team's incompetent?" I smiled and said, "No, I'm saying if we coordinate better, we'll hit results faster." Calm, precise, and the tension vanished. Remember, the first to lose their calm has already lost. The one who clarifies controls the game. The second trap is the hidden presupposition, also known as assuming the sale. It doesn't attack you directly, it hides inside the question. A quiet ambush that frames you as guilty before you speak. When someone says, "Why are you always so selfish?" they've already declared you selfish. The trap is sprung before your mouth opens. And the moment you say, "I'm not selfish," you've accepted the frame. You're now playing defense on their terms. This is manipulation disguised as conversation, the Stoic counterattack. Expose the assumption. Ask what's hidden beneath the question. When a wife says, "Do you not love me anymore?" most men panic. "Of course I do," they say, rushing to defend love instead of addressing the pain behind the question. A Stoic pauses. He looks gently and asks, "What makes you feel that way?" Because sometimes the storm is not in the words, it's in the wound. Epictetus taught, silence is also an answer. When a question is unfair, respond with stillness, not struggle. In that silence, you reclaim your power. The third weapon of manipulation is the smash technique, the blending of words to confuse you. They merge 2 separate ideas into one, so you can't tell what's true and what's false anymore. It's like mixing poison into water, impossible to separate once swallowed. In one interview, a journalist asked, "So, you want your followers to quit the abuse, quit the anger?" She merged abuse and anger into one phrase, forcing a false choice. If Peterson said yes, he'd admit to leading abusers. If he said no, he'd sound cruel. But instead, he stayed calm and replied, "I'd need specific examples of that abuse." That's Stoic mastery. Separate before you respond. Split the question apart. Say, "Let's address one part at a time." Seneca once said, "Not every question deserves an answer. Some are traps wrapped in polite words." Once a client told me, "You and your team can't be trusted." I didn't react. I said, "Thank you. Could you tell me specifically what makes you feel that way?" He hesitated because there was nothing real behind his words. Silence, separation, and composure. These three make the angry step back, and the calm rise above. The fourth tactic, rapid-fire questions. Aggressors love speed. They flood you with question after question, hoping to overwhelm your logic. It's chaos disguised as confidence. During an infamous interview, Peterson was hit with a barrage. Why are there so few women CEOs? Why is there a pay gap? Why are women underpaid? It wasn't about answers. It was about breaking rhythm. But he simply said, "Let's go back to the first question. We'll take them one at a time." That's the Stoic way. Slow the tempo. Control the rhythm. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When others rush you, breathe, then move slower. Because speed is the enemy of wisdom." I once faced this in a business meeting. The client fired questions like bullets. What's the price? Why the delay? Who's at fault? I smiled and said, "Let's begin with the first, price." Instantly, the storm stopped. The moment you slow the rhythm, you reclaim the room. The fifth weapon is the straw man, a subtle shift in framing. The manipulator doesn't attack what you said, they redefine it. You say, "Silence can be stronger than words," and they reply, "So, you think silence is a way to avoid responsibility?" Suddenly, you're not discussing wisdom, you're defending your character. The Stoic doesn't play that game. Instead, he says calmly, "I don't agree with your interpretation," then stops. The moment you refuse to argue within their frame, they lose control. A CEO once faced reporters accusing him of raising prices during a crisis. He didn't deny it. He reframed it. "I wouldn't call it raising prices. I'd call it maintaining fairness across the supply chain." One calm sentence transformed the story from greed to integrity. Seneca said, "No one can insult you unless you agree to play the role of the insulted." Remember that. Never let others define your narrative. The sixth and final technique is persuasive redirection, guiding others to agree with you without realizing it. This is the highest form of Stoic communication, not domination, but harmony. When asked, "Why is your right to free speech more important than someone's right not to be offended?" Peterson replied, "To think at all, we must risk being offensive. And you're doing that right now. You're risking offending me in pursuit of truth." That moment turned confrontation into agreement. It wasn't a win through ego, it was a win through logic. A friend of mine once faced his boss who said, "Stop dreaming, be more realistic." My friend smiled and replied, "It's because of your realism that I've learned to turn dreams into plans. I guess we're working toward the same goal, right?" His boss laughed. The tension vanished. The power shifted quietly. That's Stoicism. Not silence out of fear, but silence out of mastery. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The wise man does not fight to win. He speaks so that truth wins." So what can we learn from these 6 tactics? First, recognize the frame before you react. Second, never answer dishonest questions. Third, control your rhythm. Slow down the chaos. Fourth, hold your body like stone. Presence speaks louder than words. Fifth, paint images with your replies. People remember what they can see. And finally, when you're right, don't prove it. Live it. Because truth doesn't need to shout. It simply needs someone calm enough to stand behind it. Someone once asked Epictetus, "How should I respond to insults?" He replied by showing that the person wasn't important enough to make him angry. That is ultimate mastery. Silence not as weakness, but as victory. Because silence doesn't mean surrender. Silence means you've already won the only battle that matters, the one within. The world is full of people who speak to be heard, but the Stoic speaks to bring peace. So the next time someone tries to provoke you, remember this. The calm man always wins, not because he's louder, but because he's unshakable. Share this message with someone learning the art of calm power. And if you're ready to build your inner fortress, subscribe to the Stoic Flame, where we train not just the mind, but the soul. Leave a comment below. I choose silence over reaction.